the standard Neo-Darwinian, modern Darwinian idea is that if you mutate or randomly change the digital characters in the DNA, the A's, C's, G's, and T's as they're represented by biochemists, then that would generate novel sequences of information, which would build new proteins, which would help sustain the building of new forms of life. But if we think about the information as expressed digitally, we have analogous experience of what happens when you start to randomly change digital characters in a section of functional text or functional information. If you, in our computer world, start randomly changing the zeros and ones in a section of functional software, you're going to destroy the function you have before you ever generate a new program or operating system.
Mm-hmm.
You fall off the functional plateau into a functionless abyss. Now, if that happens in biology, if you start changing the A's, C's, G's, and T's randomly, and they degrade the ability to build a functional protein before they generate the ability to build a new one, then you're going to fall into a functional abyss, and natural selection will have nothing to select, because natural selection selects for functional advantage. And there's been recent experiments performed by an Israeli protein scientist. Alas, he had died fairly recently, but before his death, Dan Tofik Israeli protein scientist showed that if you start to accumulate mutations in a section of DNA for building a stable protein structure called a protein fold, within a very few number of mutations, you'll degrade the structure of that stable fold long before you ever come up with a new protein fold. So it has the same feature we find in computer code. If you start randomly changing things, you're going to wreck stuff before you ever generate something new that's functional. And so the discovery that biology is that the generation of new biological form is based on digital information, at least in part, poses a huge problem to Darwinian accounts of the origin of new information, because randomly changing functional sequences is going to degrade information before you generate new functional information. And that's a big problem that hasn't been solved. And it's one of the reasons that there are an increasing number of evolutionary biologists now calling for a new theory of evolution.
Wow.